She attacked my disabled wife on our porch. She had no clue who I command. She kicked my wife down our front stairs like she was garbage. 3 minutes later, 5 military convoys rolled into the cul-de-sac. It didn't start with violence. It started with notes, folded paper taped to our mailbox, warnings, demands, citations for flowers being non-uniform, for wind chimes being distracting, for sitting on our porch too long, as if time was something to regulate. But last Thursday, it turned brutal. Karen, real name Marlene Hartford, showed up in broad daylight. Clipboard, sunglasses, fake HOA badge pinned like a sheriff's star. My wife, Joy, stood calmly on our porch with her cane, halfway down the steps to greet the delivery guy. Marlene stopped her. "You don't belong here," she snapped. Joy blinked. "Excuse me." Then Marlene did the unthinkable. She kicked Joy in the back of her knee. Hard. Joy tumbled. Her cane cracked against the stairs. Her body hit concrete like a dropped vase. Neighbors screamed. One caught it on their phone. And as I sprinted from the garage, my military instincts surged to the surface, but I froze at the top step, staring at my wife's motionless frame, her eyes wide with shock and pain. Then I heard the rumble, not from my voice, not from my rage, but from down the road, 5 military convoys, led by a unit of my own. They weren't supposed to be here, not today, but I had called in a scheduled logistics inspection weeks ago, and they showed up 3 minutes after Karen made the biggest mistake of her life. I turned toward her, my uniform crisp from command training just an hour earlier, my boots still laced with desert dust. Her clipboard trembled. Who are you?" she gasped. I stared her down. "I'm the man whose wife you just assaulted, and the officer who commands half the soldiers rolling toward your house. They say silence is the loudest sound after an explosion. I know that's true now because when Joy hit the ground, the world stopped. Her body landed in a way no one should limp, bent awkwardly across the bottom 2 concrete steps. Her cane clattered, snapped clean in half, one end rolling onto the walkway like a final insult. The potted flowers we'd placed on the porch for spring crushed beneath her side, and Karen Marlene Hartford, self-proclaimed president of the Oakgate HOA Compliance Corps, just stood there with her clipboard, frozen, blinking, her jaw half open as if she were the one assaulted. 3 minutes earlier, I'd been in our garage, packing my duffel for a base inspection with my unit standard quarterly procedure. Nothing out of the ordinary. I had the engine idling on the military SUV, comms off, uniform starch crisp. I was humming under my breath. Joy had gone out to grab a parcel from the Amazon guy. Then came the scream, a high, breathless yelp hers. Then silence. Then chaos. When I bolted up the path and saw Joy lying there, time slowed. Her eyes locked on mine, full of pain and panic. Blood trailed from her elbow. Her knee was twisted wrong, already swelling. And still, she didn't cry. She just whispered. She kicked me. Evan. I didn't even touch her. That's when I turned. Marlene Hartford was backing away now, her clipboard held like a shield. She muttered. She was defiant. "This is HOA property." That's when I said it. "You just assaulted a disabled veteran's wife." Her head jerked. She wasn't wearing a badge. She was on the wrong step. I stepped forward. The light caught my insignia, my unit patch, the glint of my rank. "I'm Lieutenant Colonel Rivers, and you just made the worst mistake of your miserable HOA life." That's when the sound came. Engines. 5 of them, my entire convoy, right on time for the base inspection. They pulled around the corner like some divine reckoning. Camouflage paint gleaming under spring sunlight. MWVs, a logistics truck, and 2 tactical support vehicles. Karen Marlene stumbled back. "What the hell is this? Why are soldiers here?" I didn't authorize a parade. I didn't answer. I was kneeling beside Joy, already radioing medevac protocol through my secured comms. Marlene tried again. This is private HOA jurisdiction. Military vehicles aren't allowed past the sidewalk without shut up. I stood slowly. My voice dropped an octave. Don't you dare speak another word. Not while my wife's bleeding because of you. That was the moment the neighborhood turned. People came out of their homes. Not the usual suburban curiosity, but rage. Phone cameras up. One woman shouted, I saw the whole thing. She kicked her. Another neighbor, Mr. Gutierrez, retired firefighter, marched straight toward Marlene and said, You're done, lady. Done. You just went full psycho. Marlene backed away, frantically pulling out her phone. This is all being documented. She was trespassing. Her cane was on my welcome mat. Your welcome mat is HOA-funded cement, someone yelled. It belongs to the association, and that's not even a real association. More murmurs, cameras, disgusted gasps. A low chant began among the teenagers gathered near the curb. Justice for Joy. Justice for Joy. I didn't want a scene. I wanted Joy safe. The medics from my convoy stabilized her within minutes. They set her leg, wrapped her elbow, and gave her fluids. She winced but never wept. She didn't even hesitate. Joy murmured, Just said, You people always make trouble, and kicked me. You people. Those words echoed like a gunshot in my head. Marlene wasn't just a petty tyrant with a clipboard. She was dangerous. And now she was exposed. 3 days later, I filed a restraining order, then a civil suit. But that was just the beginning. Because when I started pulling the threads, I found something far worse than one racist attack. Marlene's HOA wasn't even registered with the county. Her compliance corps made up of hand-picked friends with private security backgrounds, some with revoked licenses, and their citations fraudulent, their community patrol fees unaccounted for. They had created a fake government inside a real neighborhood and abused it to silence, isolate, and punish anyone who didn't fit their version of ideal: families, veterans, immigrants. Joy and me. That night, as Joy slept in her hospital bed, I opened a new file on my laptop, titled Operation Restore Oakgate. The mission: take back our neighborhood, expose every lie, and Marlene's reign. Because if there's one thing I learned in my years serving overseas, it's this: evil doesn't always wear uniforms. Sometimes it wears a smile, a clipboard, and a laminated badge. But that doesn't make it any less dangerous, and I wasn't going to let it spread one step further. The thing about surveillance is that once you've worked in military intelligence, you never see the world the same way again. You learn to spot patterns, repetition, shadows where there shouldn't be any, cameras that weren't there last week. So when I walked through Oakgate that Saturday morning, pushing Joy's empty wheelchair up the main path between the townhomes, I saw everything. I saw the tiny black lens hidden in the birdhouse on Lot 3B. I saw the red dot blinking behind the decorative stone mailbox near the HOA clubhouse. I saw the motion sensor solar lamp on our neighbor's fence that didn't light up at night but turned every time someone passed. Marlene Hartford had eyes everywhere. Joy was still recovering in the hospital. Her leg had been fractured in 2 places. The doctors said it would heal, but her confidence, that was harder to mend. She kicked me because she thought she could. Joy whispered the night before, because she believed this fake HOA gave her power. She was right, and I intended to dismantle that illusion brick by brick. So I started with data. Within 48 hours of the assault, I ran a public records search. Oakgate HOA's articles of incorporation expired 6 years ago. Their charter never refiled, their board election records non-existent, but somehow they were still issuing fines, restricting property changes, controlling community meetings. Because they had weaponized perception, Marlene dressed the part, used jargon, threw around phrases like compliance oversight and architectural uniformity, and neighbors busy, distracted, exhausted believed it was real. They paid fines that weren't legal, obeyed curfews that weren't official, watched as Joy and I were warned for public lounging because we dared to sit on our porch for too long. It was a dictatorship in pearls and khakis, but even dictatorships fall. especially when you trace their power to something as fragile as a USB port. I installed my own surveillance. 2 cameras hidden inside Joy's old ceramic planters pointed at the front walkway. Another on the porch light, aimed at the street, one inside the garage, synced to a motion alert app on my phone. I wasn't being paranoid. I was preparing, because I'd seen what came next. When tyrants are exposed, they don't retreat. They retaliate. It didn't take long. Monday morning, 7:13 a.m. My phone pinged. Motion detected front yard camera 02. I tapped the feed. 2 men in khaki uniforms, ones I'd seen patrolling with Marlene, were at my porch. One carried a clipboard, the other a pry tool. They crouched by the corner of my fence, pulling something from the soil. I recognized it instantly, a listening device. They weren't just watching us, they were recording us. I stepped out the front door in full uniform, rank patch clear as day. They froze. One dropped the tool, the other tried to smile. Routine HOA maintenance. Sir, I stepped off the porch. You're trespassing, I said calmly. This property is privately owned. No registered HOA exists under current municipal code. He opened his mouth. I held up my phone. This conversation is being recorded, and this footage, it's already backed up to cloud storage and submitted to legal counsel. They left without another word. That night, I visited the sheriff's office. Deputy Hawkins, a calm, sharp black woman who'd once served in the reserves, reviewed my footage. This is criminal, she muttered. Wiretapping, illegal surveillance. And you said you have evidence of HOA fraud too. I slid the folder across the desk. This is just the beginning. She studied me for a long moment. You want to press charges? I didn't blink. I want to burn their whole system down. The next day, something remarkable happened. People started talking. Not to me at first, but to each other. I walked the block and saw neighbors whispering in clusters. A woman named Cynthia, who once reported us for non-HOA approved porch furniture, crossed the street to say she'd seen Marlene's patrol snooping around her yard too. I thought it was just me, she said. They told me if I didn't remove my pride flag, I'd get fined. But there's no real board. Is there? No. I said, and the fines are illegal. Her eyes welled. I want to help. What do you need? That night, I created a group chat called Operation Unmask. By noon the next day, we had 20 members, then 45, then 82, veterans, teachers, grandparents, business owners, people Marlene had silenced with fear, were ready to speak. One man shared scans of all his violation notices. Another posted screenshots of threatening emails from Marlene's compliance team. A woman uploaded an audio recording from a meeting where Roger, Marlene's husband, bragged that most folks here don't even read the city codes. And then came the goldmine. Cynthia, bless her, dug through the city archives and found the original HOA charter. Turns out, Marlene had forged the board renewal paperwork. Her election faked with her friends' names and fake addresses. She wasn't just running a fake HOA. She was running a conspiracy. But the tipping point came when someone finally broke ranks from the inside. A teenager, Dominic, whose mother served on Marlene's faux architectural board, messaged me directly. He sent me an audio file. In it, you could clearly hear Marlene's voice. If the military guy makes any more noise, we escalate. Citation, then lean. We push him to cell. This neighborhood is for families, not politics, not pity cases. He'll leave like the rest. She knew Joy was disabled. She knew I was military. And still, she wanted us gone. That night, I didn't sleep. I wrote a letter to the mayor, the city manager, and the county fraud division. I attached 30 documents, 6 video files, and a map of all illegal surveillance points we had found in Oakgate. I titled it The HOA That Wasn't a Neighborhood Under Siege. I hit send, and then I called my command liaison. Sir, I said, I have a personal situation with national implications, because now it wasn't just about HOA fraud, it was about targeting military families. disabled residents, immigrants, and anyone who didn't fit Marlene's mold. She didn't just create fake rules, she created fear. And she did it in a place where we're supposed to feel safest, our homes. Not anymore, because her walls had eyes. But now so did we. I've operated in hostile zones where trust could get you killed. But nothing prepared me for the battlefield that used to be my neighborhood. Marlene's fake HOA didn't go down quietly. It retaliated. It started small, a dead squirrel dumped in our mailbox. Then a paint smear across our porch railing red, like blood. Then anonymous calls reporting our home as abandoned. Despite me stepping outside in full uniform daily, they were trying to rattle me. Instead, they triggered something deeper, something tactical, something precise. Because I wasn't just a soldier, I was intel. We called it Code 13, our internal name for what was coming. It was our signal that retaliation had begun. And like any trained unit, our resistance had protocols. Every resident in the Operation Unmasked chat received instructions, cameras up. We issued affordable doorbell cams and motion sensors to neighbors funded through donations, and a quiet partnership with a veteran-owned nonprofit. Logs activated. We built a secure Google Drive folder where residents uploaded every incident, every odd encounter, every fake citation, time-stamped and cross-verified. Legal shields. Shauna, a local civil rights attorney and Air Force vet, filed a class-action civil rights complaint on behalf of 12 households. I was plaintiff, number 1. Within 3 days of launching Code 13, we had evidence of stalking, harassment, and impersonation by Marlene's team. But we needed more than proof. We needed exposure. So we baited them. Dominic, the teenager who'd sent us the damning audio recording, agreed to help. We wired a decoy mailbox in front of his house. He posted a new porch sign, Veteran Family, Protected by Law. That afternoon, a new citation appeared, claiming violation of HOA Rule 11C, excessive political messaging. There is no Rule 11C because there is no real HOA. We traced the person who left it. It was Roger, Marlene's husband, dressed in civilian clothing, but wearing an earpiece and carrying a clipboard with forged forms. Dominic caught it all on video. Within hours, we released it to the press. Local veteran family harassed by rogue HOA leader. It spread like wildfire. But the response, it made things worse. 2 nights later, someone slashed the tires on my convoy Jeep. A neighbor's garage was broken into, files stolen, hard drive gone. Joy's hospital room received 3 prank calls with disturbing messages. She'll fall harder next time. I had to call in a security team. 2 soldiers stationed off-duty rotated night watch at our house. This wasn't just harassment. It was domestic psychological warfare. And I had seen what happened when communities didn't stand together. I refused to let Oakgate fall into fear. So we went bigger. I contacted my public affairs officer from base. Sir, I told him, this is more than HOA fraud. This is a civilian operation posing as a paramilitary force in a suburban neighborhood, intimidating veterans, people of color, and disabled residents. I sent the full dossier, every image, every log. He reviewed it, called me back. This is serious. Rivers, we're forwarding this to Homeland Affairs. You've got green light to escalate. Escalate. That was the word I needed. Within 48 hours, we held Oakgate's first public security assembly. The city approved our request to host it at the community playground neutral ground. We expected 20 people. Over 100 showed up. Teachers, retirees, nurses, veterans, parents holding signs, children holding homemade drawings that said, "Let us be free." We set up a projection screen. I stepped up in uniform. 3 weeks ago, my wife was assaulted. I began, not by a stranger, but by someone who believed a fake position gave her real power. And for too long, we all let that lie grow. The crowd was dead silent. I clicked to the next slide showing Marlene's fake HOA documents, side by side with official city code. She had no legal authority, no registered organization, no right to fine you, no right to patrol your homes, no right to intimidate your children. I let it sink in. And now, I said slowly, we take that power back. Halfway through the meeting, a Jeep screeched to a stop across the street. It was Marlene. She stepped out, shaking with fury. Roger was behind her. She held a bullhorn. "This is unlawful," she shrieked. "These are baseless lies. This is my community. I built this." Someone in the crowd shouted, "Then why are the soldiers protecting him? Not you." Another yelled, "Where's your HOA registration? Show us the paperwork." Marlene stepped forward, bullhorn shaking. "I've kept this neighborhood safe for 10 years. Without me, your lawns would be a jungle." I walked to her slowly. "You didn't build this community." "Marlene," I said, meeting her eyes, "you hijacked it." She opened her mouth again, but that's when the Homeland Affairs officer stepped into the light, badge raised, two uniformed agents behind him. "Marlene Hartford," he said, "you are under investigation for impersonation of public authority, fraudulent collection of fines, and conspiracy to intimidate federally protected residents." The crowd gasped. Marlene collapsed to her knees, and Oakgate exhaled for the first time in years. That night, Joy called me from the hospital with a smile in her voice. "I heard the yelling from the parking lot." She said, "Was that real?" "It was real," I said softly. "We did it. But we weren't done yet." Because the collapse of Marlene's fake empire left a vacuum. And if we didn't fill it with truth, someone else might fill it with fear again. Justice doesn't arrive with fanfare. It comes quietly, in the scrape of a sign being removed, the hush that follows a tyrant's fall, the tentative steps of a community learning to walk on its own again. The morning after Marlene Hartford was escorted away in handcuffs, I stood on our porch beside Joy, her legs still braced, but her voice strong. She sipped her tea like it was armor. Across the street, someone took down the fake HOA enforcement zone sign that had been bolted to a lamppost for 2 years. Another neighbor dragged a trash can to the curb without fear of citation. Someone played jazz from a Bluetooth speaker on their lawn. The sound echoed like freedom. We hadn't just exposed a fraud, we'd reclaimed a community. But rescue was only the beginning. Rebuilding that would take more than evidence. It would take trust, something Marlene's regime had shredded piece by piece. People didn't know how to talk to each other without looking over their shoulders. Kids didn't play outside past 5. Porch lights had become symbols of control, not comfort. So we started with the simple stuff. Step 1, erase the false power. Shauna and I led a legal delegation to the city clerk's office. With Homeland Affairs backing our findings, we filed a community-wide motion to formally dissolve the defunct Oakgate HOA entity and strike its citations from the property records of 57 homes. By Friday, the City Council voted unanimously to approve. Every fine, every lien, every violation gone. Marlene's digital trail was erased from the county system like a virus scrubbed clean. Step 2, restore what was lost. I coordinated with base logistics and a few old friends in the engineering corps. 2 weeks later, 4 active duty volunteers arrived in Oakgate with toolkits and paintbrushes. We called it Operation Porchlight. The goal: fixed the damage Marlene's HOA had caused, both literal and symbolic. We replaced Joy's shattered cane with a handcrafted carbon fiber one, engraved with the words "Stand Strong." We helped a neighbor repaint his garage door without fear. We tore down the fake security station Marlene had installed on the corner lot and repurposed it into a lending library stocked with books on civil rights, gardening, and community history. We even hosted a neighborhood movie night, first time in 5 years. The film Remember the Titans felt right. Step 3, rebuild leadership from the ground up. We didn't want another HOA. That word was poison now. Instead, we held a community assembly, an open forum with no titles, no positions, and no hidden agendas. People stood and spoke. Some apologized. Some wept. One woman admitted she'd helped Marlene because she was scared her mixed-race grandchildren would be targeted. "I thought if I stayed close, they'd stay safe," she said. I was wrong. Nobody booed. Nobody yelled. We listened. And then we built something new. Oak Gate became the first neighborhood in our county to adopt a community care charter, a voluntary framework that emphasized support over surveillance, no fines, no patrols, just mutual aid, open communication, and a rotating council of residents focused on projects like lawn sharing, child sitting, and veterans outreach. We created a digital platform for neighbors to post needs, events, and concerns moderated not by enforcers, but by peers. It was slow, awkward at first, but every time someone offered a ride to the clinic, or shared extra paint, or planted flowers in a neighbor's yard without fear of getting cited, that trust grew stronger. Joy was home now, healing. She insisted on baking muffins for every new neighbor who joined the charter. She tried to break us with a staircase, Joy said, packing up a fresh tray of blueberry oat. Let's rebuild one step at a time. Still, not everyone was on board. Roger Hartford, Marlene's husband, had lawyered up. His real estate license was suspended, but he continued to insist that what we did was necessary order. When the press asked him about the HOA citations, he smirked and said, "Sometimes leadership means doing the hard thing." To me, that wasn't leadership. That was cowardice in khakis. But even Roger had lost his grip. When he tried to host a concerned citizens meeting on the old HOA clubhouse steps, no one showed up. The doors were locked, the padlock installed by city order. The new plaque beside it, Langston Hall, a place for everyone, named after a veteran who once lived on that corner lot and was fined for having a rocking chair on his porch. Sometimes I wonder if the hardest battles are the ones fought without bullets, the ones where silence is the enemy, where truth must be louder than fear, where community must be stronger than control. Marlene ruled through fear of disorder, but we rose through care. That was our rescue. This was our rebuild. And Oakgate, it was finally home. Home isn't made of wood or stone. It's not the lawn, the fence, or the square footage. It's the feeling you get when your presence isn't just tolerated, it's valued. When your name is spoken with warmth instead of suspicion. When the light on your porch is a signal of welcome, not a surveillance trigger. That's what we were building in Oakgate, now a new standard. Not the kind written in fine print and used to punish. The kind that lived in action in how we showed up for each other after everything we'd survived. A month had passed since Marlene's arrest, and the neighborhood had taken on a different rhythm. Children raced their bikes down sidewalks that had once been silent. The old man on Lot 6B played chess again with his brother on the porch. Flags flew, not just American ones, but rainbow flags, military service flags, even one that read, "Peace lives here." And Joy was walking again. Each day a little steadier, her cane firm in her grip, her presence firmer. That morning, we stood together at the newly painted gazebo in Oakgate Park, where I was about to give the opening speech for our first official Oakgate Day of Service. It wasn't a holiday. It was a declaration that we, as a community, refused to go back to silence. I stepped onto the platform, adjusted the mic, and looked out at over 200 people gathered on the grass. Black, white, Latino, Asian, queer, straight, elderly, teens, soldiers, single moms. All of them had been affected by what had happened here. All of them had stayed. "I want to thank every one of you," I began, "not just for showing up today, but for refusing to be quiet when it mattered most." A pause, a nod toward Joy. "When my wife was assaulted on our porch, I thought justice would come fast. I thought truth would be enough. More silence, but justice, it turns out, isn't a moment. It's a movement. And truth needs backup. People willing to stand in front of it. Hold the line." Murmurs of agreement rippled through the crowd. So here's the new standard we set today. Not one of fear, not one of power enforced by lies, but one of accountability, visibility, and care. I raised my voice. We don't need a clipboard to check on our neighbors. We don't need a badge to protect our block. We don't need a fake HOA to tell us what respect looks like. Applause, loud, honest. After the speech, teams fanned out across the neighborhood. Some fixed fences, Others repainted curbs that had been deliberately marked non-compliant by Marlene's crew. A few built garden beds in front of the old clubhouse, now repurposed as a community center and renamed after Joy. The Joy River Center for Neighborhood Resilience. We didn't ask for funding. The city donated materials, and volunteers brought the rest. Kids planted flowers. Teens designed a mural. At the center of the mural, a figure holding a broken clipboard in one hand and a community in the other. Underneath, in bold, "We are the standard." But even as we rebuilt, I carried the weight of what we lived through. I testified twice in front of a state subcommittee investigating HOA overreach. I shared our story with other neighborhoods across the county, some already beginning to push back against similar abuse. I met a woman who cried when I handed her a copy of our community care charter. "You mean we're allowed to say no?" she whispered. "Yes," I said. "You always were." Back at home, Joy and I started a ritual, porch coffee every Sunday. No matter what. Just us. No fear. Sometimes neighbors joined. Sometimes we just waved. One morning, a boy walked up, 8 or 9, said, "Are you the soldier?" Joy smiled. "He is." The boy handed me a drawing, a big house, a flag, and people standing hand in hand. "You helped fix it," he said, "so we can play again." That's when it hit me. This wasn't about revenge. This was about the future. And what about Marlene? She accepted a plea deal, community service, restitution, a public statement of apology, which we requested be handwritten and read aloud during our town hall. She showed up, shaky, eyes hollow. She read her statement, apologized to Joy by name, tried to explain her fear, her control, her intentions. The room stayed quiet. No one booed. When she finished, she looked at me. "I thought I was protecting something," she said, "but I was just afraid of letting it grow." I didn't nod. I didn't forgive her, not right away. But I said, "Then start growing, too." And she left. Some wounds remain. Trust takes time. Not everyone forgave easily. Not everyone had to. But the point was never perfection. It was accountability. It was the standard we set, a standard that says you cannot weaponize authority against the vulnerable. You cannot disguise hatred as order. You cannot steal peace and expect silence in return. Today, Oak Gate is ordinary in the best ways. We argue over parking spots, debate lawn care, laugh about it all later, but we do it together, and no one gets kicked off their porch again. Because now, when we see someone in pain, we don't wait, we show up, not with citations, with chairs, with food, with love, with courage. That's the legacy Joy and I built after the fall. That's the standard we set. End the